Welcome back to another Blender BIM tutorial. This is me, Christina, and my superpower is helping creative people get the best of any BIM software faster. One of the most exciting aspects of learning a software that's pretty much still in development is that sometimes very simple features get completely changed. So you do have to pay a lot of attention to where everything went. And today, what we're going to do is learn how to create a project setup. We're going to learn how to add our levels, add grids to our projects, and create our floor plans and elevations. All right, so it's time to jump over to the laptop. At the moment I'm recording this video, I'm working with Blender 4.0, and when it comes to my Blender BIM version, I am working with version 23.11.04. Keep in mind that at the time of this recording, this is the most up-to-date versions. However, in a few months from now, maybe not all the things I'm going to show today will be completely accurate. So be prepared for changes. To create your first in Blender BIM, go to the Properties pane, pick your IFC format, the units you want to work in, and a relevant template. For now, I'm going to use demo library, and I'm going to create a new project. As you can see, we get the structure of our IFC model on the left in the outliner pane, and to the right, we have once again different properties that change depending on what element we have selected in our view. Save your project, hit the Control plus S. I'm going to name it First Project Setup. Okay, now that we saved our project, let's load it once again. Usually the first step when you create a new project is to define your levels. There are three ways to go about it. Hit Shift A from your keyboard and add an empty plane axis. At this point, our axis is still very much a Blender object. What we need to do is go and assign it an IFC class. This can be done through the object information. We want our new axis to be a spatial element and to be a building story in the context of every part of our model. Once you're ready with selecting the right product, class, and context, hit Assign IFC class. However, you see that our empty object is not located accurately in our hierarchy. So to locate it accurately, we have to go to Aggregates and select its parent to be my building and assign it. The last step would be to just rename our new level by hitting F2 from the keyboard. First floor. And to set the right elevation, you can go to Geometry and Materials and enter the accurate value along the z-axis. An easy way to add a new floor would be to just select our building from our outliner hierarchy, go to Object Information, and hit the Add Building Storey button. This will be our second floor. And you can hit OK. Of course, once again, you need to set the right elevation, 4.8 meters in our case. And the third way to add new elevations would be through our Spatial Manager. Now that we have several floors, we already have a certain spatial organization for our IFC building class. So you can go and hit Load Spatial Structure. Here you can edit certain values. For example, we can make the elevation to match our Z value. Hit Apply. 2.7. Hit Apply. And if we select our building, we can use the Add Story. And for our new unnamed story, we can go ahead, select it in our Spatial Manager, edit its elevation, and hit Apply. And now we have a ground floor, first, second, and third floor. So time to move on with our grids. Go to Project Overview, go to Grids, and hit Add Grids. As you can see, the Blender BIM add-on adds a standard grid with axes in the two major global directions of our floor plan. To edit the space between the axes, select the axis that you'd like to move, hit G from your keyboard, constrain the location in which you'd like to move your object by hitting X, Y, or Z from your keyboard. In my case, I will hit Y. Right now, my grids are spaced at 10 meters apart. I would like to move this grid in the opposite direction by 2 meters. So hit -2. I would like to repeat the same for the last axis in the X direction. Hit grab, constrain X, and I would like to move it by 2 meters and 50 centimeters. As you can see, right now, the axes that are created in the X in the Y direction of my model do not overlap the last of the axis in the X direction. So to extend them, I can go select them all, hit Tab to go to edit. Make sure to set the selection mode to vertex. You can switch between selection modes by hitting 1, 2, and 3. Select the vertex you'd like, the vertices you'd like to move. Hit again G and go for constraining X and confirm the distance you'd like to move the vertices X. So this looks pretty good at this point. However, probably you'd like to add an additional axis. And to do so, select an existing one, hit Shift D from your keyboard. Once again, constrain the direction in which you'd like to copy the axis. Enter the distance at which you'd like to move it. And as you can see, in the hierarchy appears a new axis. To rename it, however, you need to hit F2 once again. As you can see at this point, our axes are very simple. However, it's not always going to be like that. So creating and editing the axis could be a great opportunity for us today to understand how two very important concepts in Blender work, the transformation orientation and the transformation pivot point. To do so, I would like to select my axes that are created in the X direction, in the Y direction, and rotate them. To do so, hit R. And as you can see right now, they're being rotated around the origin of our workspace. Go for 5, actually -5. All right, let's select our axis again, switch to edit mode. And if we'd like to, let's say, extend our axis once again in the X direction once again, we can hit grab and constrain hit X and constrain X. But when we move the vertices, we notice that actually the Y value is fixed. And the angle at which originally we rotated our axis is not being maintained. To change that, we can go to transformation orientation to local. And now our x-axis will be actually oriented to the local x-axis of our points. So let's select our vertices again, hit grab, and hit X again. And as you can see, now the transformation or the movement is oriented to the direction of our axis. Okay, however, imagine that we have an axis that is slightly longer than the others, and we would like to align them together. There is a relatively easy way to do so. We just need to select all the vertices and hit S for scale. in the direction of X, or our local X in our case, and hit 0 and confirm. However, if we aimed to align all the shorter axes to the longest one, we kind of fail. Right now, all of them are aligned at some sort of a medium point between all the points we want to align. To change that, an important thing to learn is how to change our transformation pivot point. And for us to align all of these other vertices to this vertex or point, we need to change this vertex to be our transformation pivot point. To do so, select the vertex and hit Shift S and select it to be a cursor. Then go to transformation pivot point and hit the option that allows us our pivot point to be our 3D cursor. Now select all of the vertices again and repeat the same sequence of keys: S, X, 0. And now you can see that all the shorter axes were aligned successfully to the longer one. All right, so another useful case for us would be to figure out how we can create the axis when we have a building that has circular shape, like a stadium or something similar. Let's copy one of the axes along X. Let's switch our transformation orientation to global for now, and our transformation pivot point to median point. Let's copy our axis several times. You can copy it directly in your hierarchy. It's much easier, and in this way, you don't risk to get the location wrong. Okay, let's select the second one and hit rotation. Right now, our rotation point is not very convenient for us. And it will be great if we select one of our axes, switch to edit mode, switch to edge, select the whole axis, hit Shift S again, add cursor to selected, and we automatically select the midpoint of this edge to be the new cursor. We are going to switch the transformation point to be our cursor again. Now we can go back to object mode, hit 2, or maybe hit C4, and let's repeat the rotation. This time we're going to rotate it by 90 degrees. Let's select the second one. We're going to repeat the rotation and will be by 30 degrees. Let's hit the third one and rotate it by 60 degrees. Let's copy these two. Select them, hit Ctrl M, and mirror them by the x-axis. We can rename them. And now we have a circular axis as well. It's time to add our first plan view to our IFC model. To do so, go to Drawings and Documents, go to Drawings, hit the pull-down button, select Target View Plan from the drop-down, the floor plan for which you'd like to create the view, and hit plus. Now in the list below, a new plan view shows up. And as you can see, BlenderBIM adds a camera to our model. Pay attention to the fact that the camera is centered at the 3D cursor of our model. So in case I would like to create a plan view that is, for example, closer to this radial axis, the best strategy would be to change the 3D cursor to be the center of this radial grid. And add the floor plan. To activate a floor plan view, select the floor plan and just hit on the camera. As you can see, some of the elements are hidden as they are not within the original extent of our view. You can change the width and height of your view. And also the depth. You can also change the scale easily. There are definitely more details to creating a plan view, but I guess for now, this should be enough. I'm planning to create a separate tutorial for just creating drawings in BlenderBIM. So we can leave this aspect at our project setup at this point. And for example, we can also easily activate another view. All right, so let's select our cursor to be the world origin again. And in many ways, the same is true when creating elevation. The camera is also centered at the 3D cursor of our space. It's good to choose south, north, and or east. In the list below, we have our elevation, and once again, we can activate it by hitting on our camera. So this is pretty much everything for today. And since this is more like a manual for creating your project setup, I will publish this as an article on my website, Dynamite Revit. Make sure to visit. Alright, so you made it to the end. And if you enjoyed this video and you're looking for more Blender BIM tutorials, make sure to like and subscribe. Alright, so you made it to